A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this 135th episode of the Together for Education webinars brought to you by Notebook. Back in April 2020, when the pandemic had just started, we started this series of webinars as a way to have educators connect on a common platform and arrive at solutions of problems that they were facing, perhaps for the first time. More than a year and a half later, with 134 episodes behind us, we have done something magnificent. We have been able to connect educators in a meaningful way and discuss some of the most evolved topics in education, be it curricular or co-curricular. Today, however, we go to the heart of the school education system. What makes a student grow up to be a good human being? We today understand how empathy can be taught, or if it can be taught at all. Our first speaker today on this topic is Mr. Philip Barrett. Mr. Barrett retired from the illustrious Doon School in Dehradun as a deputy headmaster after 44 years of serving in education across various institutions. He served the Doon School as housemaster, head of department, dean of activities, dean of student welfare, deputy headmaster, second master, and acting headmaster with great distinction. He also carried out a visioning exercise for the Doon School in the year 2011 through an in-depth study of a number of British public schools and various schools in the US. Mr. Burrett qualified as a leadership trainer at Wellington College, UK in the year 2000. He is also an athlete, an adventurer, and a naturalist, and we at Notebook are privileged to have him as our senior advisor. Sir, thank you so much for being here. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Chubayu, for that introduction, and a very good evening to you, Achin, Abhishek, Gagori, Meghna, the whole team at Calcutta, as well as esteemed panelists. I can see Dr. Sunita Singh and all those who have tuned in. When I was looking at this topic, I just wondered that the world has so many millions who suffer in it, from not only war and disease and abject poverty and pestilence, but also hunger, loss of homes and property, and also depression, inner turmoil, suicidal thoughts, addictions, and many other mental health issues. The world is a very insensitive place where educated and cultured people bring suffering on the lives of many. And in this scenario, we need people who have hearts, who can feel. And one Mother Teresa or a Nelson Mandela or a Dalai Lama or a Thich Nhat Hanh is not enough. In fact, none of us is expected to change the whole world. But what we can do is to make the lives of those people who come into contact with us in our little overlapping spheres, to make their lives much easier and to be able to reach out to them with some degree of love and affection. And therefore, the onus falls on schools to not only educate the mind and the body, but also the heart and the soul. That's where this emotional flexibility comes into it. There are schools abroad, and I'm sure in India, which teach courses on happiness. And amongst other things, that includes empathy. I saw a wonderful cartoon, Winnie the Pooh, and it is by Brené Brown, the woman who wrote Born to Lead, where there is this dark room, and there's this little girl who's sitting down, huddled up in a dark room, very depressed. And if you look at sympathy is very different from empathy. A sympathetic person would come down, switch on the light and say, come on, shake out of this. Life is not so tough. Even I've had tough days. Let's go and have a snack. That would be sympathy. But empathy would mean to come quietly, keep the light off, and sit quietly with that person. It is getting into the mind and the heart of the other. It is to feel what the other is feeling. So an empathetic person wouldn't put on the lights and say, come on, shake out of your mood, but would sit quietly and just inform the other person that I'm here with you, and I'm going to sit here with you in darkness, no matter how long it takes, because my presence here is for you. Whatever you want me to do, I will do. And that's where I learned the first idea of what is empathy. It is getting into the hearts and mind of somebody else. And, I also heard Simon Sinek, who's a very inspirational coach and speaker. And he draws the parallel between two bosses. So the first boss comes down to the office and says, listen, figures are down this month. We haven't met our monthly targets. What's happening? Why can't we deliver? I might have to retrench some of you. Come on, guys, wake up. There is no empathy in that. Another boss comes down, the same people, and says, people, figures are down. We haven't met our targets this month. How are you feeling? Is everything okay? How are things at home? Do you want to talk? The first person targets the issue. The second person targets the people. And that is where empathy comes in. Empathy in management and in business is all about getting into and feeling what other people are feeling. Now, we cannot be asked to shake out of a depression, a low. We need to live through it. Grief takes time. You can't shake out of grief, but you need people to hold that space with you or for you. But before you can imagine what other people are feeling, we need to get in touch with what we are feeling. We need to have the emotional maturity to understand what's going on in our lives, in our hearts. Because only when you can get in touch with what you are feeling, can you empathize with what other people are feeling. It's only when I lost my father, other members of my family, could I fully understand the grief of other people. And some schools, they have a chart of yellow faces, different little faces with different emotions, happiness, smiling faces, sad faces, worried faces. This is because children don't have the vocabulary, rich vocabulary to explain their emotions. So they point to the figure that best represents their feeling this morning. I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling lonely. And, boys and girls are different. Girls have a better vocabulary. They can express their emotions. Boys who are extremely emotional don't have the vocabulary. You ask a boy what is, how he is, he'll say, good. What's your car like? Good. How's your dad doing? Good. Or it's awesome. They're very, very limited. Awesome, good, nice. But we need to give children the vocabulary to express their emotions. Also, boys come with ready-made scripts handed down from families and generations. Don't be a sissy. Boys don't cry. We need to explore where this is coming from if we want to create children who have empathy. And trauma is all about what happened to us as young people. And trauma is stored in the body. It is stored in the body, and we, as young children, and we don't have words for it. But if you have a trauma specialist in a school, the trauma specialist tries to get to the root of the trauma, which is affecting our lives, by asking the color of the trauma, the smell, where is it paining? A lot of children suffer from trauma, but they don't, it's also stuck in their bodies. They don't know what happened, what caused the trauma. How can we create empathy in children? Well, the first is that we as adults and parents need to be role models. They imitate and they see what we do. And a lot of their bias and their prejudice comes from the contamination of their adult world by parents. Kids grow up responding to others' emotional stress. They need to see grief at funerals, happiness at weddings. They need to visit hospitals. They need to see what people go through when they suffer. I know that there was a matron in my school who died in a serious accident. And my boys were on the verge of having a house feast. I had to call it off. I had to explain that when somebody has died in our community, and we are a gated community, we can't celebrate. We need to push that away and grieve with the family. Just as we celebrate victory, we need to mourn and commiserate with others' loss. We also need to be very careful on bullying and our bullying policies, because bullying is a form of no empathy. You're not empathizing with the pain that someone goes through. And so schools have to work on the policies related to cruelness, bullying. Cruelty and hatred often start in schools. Schools indoctrinate these systems. Anti-Semitism, all starts when you're young, a contamination through others, through elders. No kid knows the difference between black and white. No kid knows Jew and Arab. No kid knows Christian, Catholic and Protestant. It is taught to them by what they see us do. The other thing is community service. The more children visit old age homes, hospitals, the sick, the blind, help in life saving. In my school, there was life saving. The Red Cross, there was Boy Scouts, there was rescue. I think in a previous webinar, I talked about Gordonston in Scotland, where these boys were trained in actual rescue. It was not just lip service. They were rescuing soldiers that were drifting off the Normandy coast in the Second World War, and they were rescuing this. And that tradition was brought into Doon School, where boys actually rode an ambulance and picked up people and took them to either the crematorium or to hospitals. I think talking about movies like Schindler's List and the Holocaust, the Hiroshima Day, we need to talk to children about what happened, what caused the pain. We need to show them movies and read them stories. Another good thing is to teach them with animals. I think most schools have a school dog or a mascot. Dogs and pets are very important because children learn to love them. Ecological groups, save the tiger, save the river, save the forests, save plants from being extinct. Animals and birds, they learn from this. And as I said, stories, the Three Little Pigs, Schindler's List, helpful characters like Winnie the Pooh. We need to talk about not only the Holocaust, but need to talk about Bosnia, Rwandan crisis, the Indo-Pakistan partition, the Sikh riots of 1984, the Pol Pot activities in the Khmer Rouge, what happened in Tibet when China walked in. And this, of course, has to be balanced out with good people of the world. We have philanthropists and some wonderful people too. I think parents need to talk about to children about empathy. They need to talk about sadness. They need to stir up latent, compassionate feelings within children. I remember a time when a lot of my boys in my house were wasting a lot of food on table. Now, I could have shouted at them. I could have said, eat it. I could have said, don't take so much. But what I did was I took them to my classroom and I got some of the most horrendous pictures of Rwandan and Somali children, Ethiopian children starving. I can't even begin to talk about these photographs. My eyes filled with tears. And I showed him this, these snaps in quick succession. I had some of these big guys teary-eyed. And I said, these people don't have food. And I see the food on your plates. And I just left it at that. We need to evoke feelings of sadness and empathy because children have that all hidden. But it's a script that they come with. Oh, we are men, we don't cry, we don't feel. No, feeling is good, just as thinking is good. And, to be sensitive to the pain of others. Often pain and trauma as a child help them disassociate with themselves. And the moment you disassociate with yourself, you're fragmented, you don't have any attachments. And all addiction is basically a lack of attachment to a community, to a group. And let me tell you, I was watching this a Netflix to do with the cruelty in the ISIS and some of these groups in Syria over the last few years. And I saw a clip of a little boy who had a bird. He caught a bird. And his father made him twist the bird and break its neck because that's what boys are trained to do. That what sort of life is that? What sort of empathy is that? I think a lot of people love animals so much that hurting them would be bad. My daughter doesn't even want to eat meat. She wants to turn vegetarian or vegan because they don't want to see cruelty. And the other thing is, of course, I think we need to reward children in school who have shown empathy. Like in our school, we had the Kurt Hahn Award. I know boys in my house who won this award because they jumped into the river, to a flowing river, and saved boys. I think they should be taught about what happened during the Taj 26/11 incident, how people gave up their lives for other people. How were those people employed in the Taj? They need to do first aid, life saving, I said, fire squads, ambulance squads. They need to commiserate with people who, when they have when they lose someone. In our school, we had commiseration ceremonies when a staff member lost one of his parents or family member. And I think it's also they need to get in touch with their emotional side. What makes them happy, angry, sad, fearful? You need to talk to teachers about this, and also show empathy towards themselves. We need to forgive ourselves. As I said, all addictions start with childhood trauma because we haven't forgiven ourselves. We need to care for ourselves also and not feel guilty for what we've done. We have to move on. And being aware of our feelings and thoughts, it leads to metacognitive awareness. We can all become more effective at taking another's perspective throughout our lives. When we encourage students to become more empathetic, we help them create more opportunities for success and other aspects of their lives. Now, I want to end just by giving you a little bit of advice. The next time someone cuts across you while you're driving home, and before you say what a rash driver, or before you stick your fist into his face or start screaming, just for a moment, put yourself into his place. He may be rushing to an ill mother who needs blood, or he might have just got a telephone call that his son is seriously ill and needs blood, or he might have just been asked that told that he's lost his job and he's rushing home, unable to face his family. I think I want to end here by saying that it is putting yourself into somebody's place. And I think it can be taught, it can be encouraged, it can be inculcated, just like anything else that we do in school. Thank you very much, Shubayu, and thank you all of you for listening.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. If I had to parody a famous line from René Descartes, but he said, "I think, therefore I am," might be changed to "I feel, therefore I am." Thank you. Thank you so much for that, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker is Achin Bhattacharyya. Achin is the founder and CEO at Notebook. A chartered accountant by training, Achin was a director at Deloitte prior to starting Notebook. He has worked in India and abroad in various senior capacities in GE, PwC, KPMG, and Deloitte. Achin is a fellow of the ICAI and a member of CPA Australia and CPA Ireland. He is also the recipient of the prestigious Indian Achievers Award. Achin is an avid reader and a passionate traveler with keen interests in economics, history, literature, and philosophy. He is a regular speaker at various forums and chambers of commerce and also contributes articles to numerous publications regularly. He is also on the board of some of the most renowned corporates and contributes significantly to their brand strategies. Achin, over to you.
Good evening, everyone. Should I am audible?
Yeah, Achin, loud and clear.
I once again welcome all of you to today's session. How do we educate the next generation of Mahatma Gandhis, Nelson Mandelas, and Dalai Lamas? Today, when I was listening to Barrett sir, I think some wonderful deliberations. There's no doubt about it that education without empathy has very little meaning. I remember reading about a letter written by a Holocaust survivor. It said, "My eyes saw what no person should witness. Gas chambers built by learned engineers. Children poisoned by educated physicians. Infants killed by trained nurses. Women and babies shot by high school and college graduates. So here I am, suspicious of education without empathy." So today, in this forum, we are here to discuss how to help our children become more human. We'd all agree, empathy is an essential skill for all students. Learning to empathize will better equip students to interpret the experience of others, especially when others' attitudes, beliefs, and way of thinking are different from our own, alien to us. it also allows for better intercultural and intercultural understanding and community cohesion between people of different economic, cultural, and religious background. However, relating the experience of others to one's own is a hard skill to master, especially for children who have limited experience of the world due to their age. It is essential, therefore, that we build up students' pre-existing experiences when finding ways to develop empathy as a tool for improving their understanding of the world around them. I remember reading what philosopher Hans George Gardner calls a fusion of horizons. Wonderful term, fusion of horizons. Importantly, a student's own prejudice and bias are essential in establishing any intrinsic values and meaning in the story of another person. This is because we can only make sense of things in relation to what we already know, which is our horizon, right? Our vision is limited by that. So it is paramount, therefore, that when encouraging students to empathize, we accept that they will frame the experiences of others with their own experiences of the world. So the other term which when we discuss something like empathy, the other term which naturally comes in is compassion. Meditation teacher and Buddhist scholar Jack Cornfield wrote, "Compassion is the heart's response to suffering." Social science researchers define compassion as a 4-part human experience that involves the following. First, noticing the pain and suffering around us. Second, interpreting that suffering as worthy of our attention and empathy. Third, feeling concern for the suffering of others. And fourth, acting to address or alleviate the suffering. We all know that we'll be imperfect in our quest to be compassionate. Despite that imperfection, compassion matters. In fact, research, documents the important effects of compassion on alleviating pain. For people who are suffering, elevating the people offering compassion, and lifting up those who witness compassion in the world around them. So the other thing is, whenever we discuss about this very important term, emotional intelligence, and why it matters and how to teach it. So empathy is a very, very important part of it, undoubtedly. Because when we discuss about emotional intelligence, it can say to cover 5 main areas: self-awareness, emotional control, self-motivation, empathy, and relationship skills. It is, of course, important for good communication with others. And therefore, we would all agree that, a gateway to better learning, friendship, academic success, and eventually leading a better life. Skills such as this are developed in our formative years at school. Often the foundation pillars. So this particular term, emotional intelligence, was popularized in mid-90s by journalist Daniel Goleman's book, Emotional Intelligence, Why It Can Matter More Than IQ. And later point of time, a lot of deliberations happened. Even in this forum, we have discussed time and again. The book claims that emotional intelligence is more important than IQ. Of course, it's a source of debate. But it does look as if emotional intelligence could be a factor in academic achievement as well. An iconic study tracked high IQ students from childhood to late adulthood and found that those who achieved notable career success showed greater willpower, perseverance, and desire to excel. Meanwhile, evidence from the seminal marshmallow test, which gave children the option to have more treats if they could wait before eating them, suggested delayed gratification and self-control are important. So thus, with these characteristics being linked to better school grades, earning, job satisfaction, etc. So undoubtedly, regardless of debates of whether emotional intelligence can be measured, we believe that it is very important. And its importance has time and again been demonstrated. And as we discussed, that out of these 5 components, empathy is a very important part of it. Because showing empathy as being with others, the ability to empathy, like the ability to take perspective of another person while being non-judgmental, which is very, very important. Recognizing the emotions they are feeling and being able to convey their perspective back to them. Evidence suggests that reading is a great way to develop this skill. I was going through a very interesting video. So I'm sure educators in this forum, I would recommend all of you to watch that at your leisure. It's an animated short video made by researcher Brené Brown. Great conversation with regard to on this particular topic. Now, reflecting back the other person's perspective helps the other person to makes them comfortable, makes them feel understood, which in turn, of course, increases the likelihood of collaboration and support. Now, children generally develop empathy through observing how others show it, including teachers, of course, as role models, apart from parents. Using phrases like, I understand, I realize, I can see, can really help to show students how understanding of others' perspective can be expressed. And we all agree that noticing the suffering of students and responding with compassion, although it isn't necessarily a part of the job of teaching, yet paradoxically, it is an inevitable reality of the role of a teacher. It has always been. I think as a profession, teaching is one of those professions where undoubtedly something like empathy is so important. Now, since it involves the other person's feeling, naturally it involves thinking, feeling, at times even a physical reaction to the other person, to notice and understand other person's feeling. Now, again, we have to, the other thing which is important is noticing and understanding is not enough. Even conmen and torturers are very good at taking others' perspective, but they don't have empathy for them. So I think the most important part is feeling. Now, children and teenagers naturally have the capacity for empathy, but it don't develop on its own. They learn how to notice, listen, and care by watching and listening to adults. Now, I think in the school, not only teachers, of course, most important part, but even other adults, support staff, everyone, administration staff, everyone play a role in helping a student develop and display empathy. Now, people are more inclined, because I think the other very important part is that one role that school adults can play is helping students expand their circle of concern. Because naturally people are inclined to feel more empathy for those who are similar to them or in close proximity to them. But when it comes to building a school community and developing care in students, that's not enough. In strong school communities, students, adults have empathy for everyone, including those who are from a different background, belief, or other ways. Another important role is encouraging students to take the leap from having empathy to acting on it, which is equally important. That's the ultimate objective. Of course, there are barriers. It's not going to be so smooth. Even with this kind of encouragement, some things can get in the way of noticing others, feeling empathy, and acting on that. These barriers might include feeling different or distant from the other person. They also include feeling of overwhelmed or distressed by concern for another person, because that can make it hard to act. To help prevent and overcome these and other barriers, of course, educators can help students, and they do that in terms of noticing and rejecting stereotypes, respecting and valuing differences. Birds have mentioned about it, widening their circle of concern, listening closely to peers and adults, and managing difficult feelings like sadness, anger, frustration. And also, how do we navigate social situations ethically and fairly? I think the other last aspect which I want to touch upon, I think Birds have mentioned very beautifully, the power of storytelling, which is so important. Because emotional and social growth can occur when kids have the experience of feeling empathy and other emotions for the characters in a story. For instance, the ugly duckling. The empathy helps them connect with and understand other people. Nature's creatures and plants are non-threatening to kids. A story about an animal or a plant can reveal important lessons without pointing a finger at another child. Children don't feel in competition with a plant or animal. For instance, I was reading about a very beautiful story of a faithful German Shepherd dog, I think Fricker, who dug through 30 feet of dangerous debris to rescue the last survivor of the World Trade Center attack in 2011. So this story emphasizes kindness, courage, and service. It can release feelings of empathy within children. And we can then direct this emotion to the joy that children can feel when they help someone. So, as I was mentioning, stories can really help children discover their own identities, connect, and see worth and beauty in themselves as well as others. So I think these are some thoughts that I wanted to share. We have a wonderful panel here today. And I really look forward to the deliberation on this topic. I thank all of you for giving me a patient here. Over to you, Shubhai.
Thank you, Achin. Thank you for that wonderful presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, as Achin mentioned, we do have a fantastic panel lined up for you. Before we go on to the panel discussion, a little bit about Notebook. We at Notebook are an EdTech product. We make short videos pertaining to the school curriculum. These videos are available to you educators, should you choose to use them as a visual introduction to the topic that you're teaching. You can play them as an introduction to your online or offline classes, and your students would have a much more visual grasp of whatever you're about to teach next. Months later, when the students need to revise, they have access to the same videos on their personal devices at home, which means whether it's a laptop or a smartphone, they can watch these videos over and over again, wherever they are, whenever they want. I will now play a short snippet of one of the Notebook videos so that you know exactly what they look like.
Let us now begin the lesson. The narrator of the story is a man who had heard of Miss Beam's school, but never had the opportunity to visit it. One day, he finally had the chance to visit it. When he reached the school, he first saw a girl of 12. Her eyes were bandaged. She was being guided by a boy. When she was near the narrator, she asked the boy who it was. The boy described the narrator to the girl, and they moved on. Then the author went on to meet Miss Beam. Miss Beam was a middle-aged woman. Though authoritative, she was also kind and understanding.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was just a short snippet from the Class 6 English lesson, A Different Kind of School. If you go onto our website, www.notebook.school, or visit our mobile apps for Android and iOS, you would find more than 10,000 such videos at your disposal that you can help your students with. With that done, it is now time for me to introduce the wonderful panel that we have with us today. We are privileged to have with us Ms. Gita Sharma, who is the chairperson of the British International School in Jammu. She is an experienced founder with a demonstrated history of working in the education management industry. She is skilled in customer service, IT skills, public speaking, research, and English. She is a strong business development professional with a Master of Arts in English, focused on English language and literature, and with letters from Manav Bharati University, Himachal Pradesh. Prior to this, she completed her Bachelor of Education degree from the University of Jammu, her MBA from the ICFA University, after doing her BCom from the University of North Bengal. Ma'am, thank you so much for gracing the platform today. We are privileged to have you here. We also have with us, you're welcome, ma'am. We also have with us Mr. Anand S. Saraswat, who holds a BSc Honours, a B.Ed, an MA in English, and an MA in Public Administration. Mr. Saraswat is an alumnus of the Regional College of Education, Ajmer, a constituent body of NCERT New Delhi, and MLS University, Udaipur. He has been teaching since 1993 and has been a principal of senior secondary schools since 2007. He is also the district training coordinator appointed by CBSE COE Dehradun and a resource person trained by CBSE head office in pedagogical leadership and experiential learning. He is the president of the Sahodaya Complex District Sambhal UP and has conducted more than 100 CBP workshops for CBSE. Sir, thank you so much for being on the platform today. We are privileged to have you here. We also have with us Dr. Sunita Singh, who is the principal at DPS Balotra in Rajasthan. She is an eminent and knowledgeable educator with a profound experience of more than 2 decades, possessing a rich experience of teaching and administration in many reputed public schools and organizations across India. She is highly skilled, student-focused educational leader. She is a poet and author, and 2 books are in the pipeline. Dr. Singh is very active as keynote speaker on many current issues, especially NEP 2020. She is a positive parenting coach also. She is a recipient of Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Award, Bhishma the Determination Award, Drona Award, Ideal Principal Award, Nation Builder Award by Arya Samaj, Rashtra Vibhushan Award by FACE, Best Principal Award in District by Science Olympiad Foundation, an International School Award by British Council, and highly prestigious honor, Honorary Doctorate by Commonwealth Vocational University. She is the Central Superintendent and Observer for many reputed exams conducted by CBSE. She is a CBSE committee member for affiliation. She is serving All India Principal Association as the State President of Rajasthan. She has more than 22 years of teaching experience and over 10 years of experience as a school principal. Ma'am, thank you so much for being here and making the time. Privileged to have you back on the platform. I shall start my video now and stop the share so that we can see each other. I would request the panelists to please switch on your cameras and unmute yourselves. A very good evening once again, and thank you so much for being on the panel. Dr. Singh, if I may come to you first. Ma'am, how do you teach students, young students, the concept of empathy?
A very good afternoon to all the panelists, and special thanks to Notepad and entire team. Thank you to Dr. Sir Philip also, because the points which I was thinking about, is almost all the points he has covered. And as you know, coming to the topic, as empathy, we were talking about empathy. Empathy, that is an ability to imagine what the other person might be thinking or feeling. This is empathy, actually. Sir told there is a difference between, sympathy and empathy. And it's the ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes and then visualize and feel some of the same emotions and the confusions that they might be feeling. So this is empathy. So how to teach all these things to the students? Earlier also, it was spoken here only. Understand, like, story will help them. Children, they like the story and they understand the things and imitate the things well from story. Their favorite, pick their favorite character. I have seen at my home also that children, they are imitating their character or whatever they like about them. So their favorite stories, whatever, from whether that is a book, TV show, movie, podcast, or something else. So story will help them to, educate about this empathy. Then just start talking about their favorite characters, for example, like how do they seem to be feeling? how do you think they are really feeling? That if we'll talk about them, so they can express their feelings about that. Then what do you think they feel that way? Why they are thinking in that way? Then what happened to make them feel that way? There's so many questions if we keep on asking after telling a story. And these are the way and the different words you can use to describe their feelings. Then coming to next point, that is digging up the deeper into the story. For example, take any character doing or saying that makes you think that you know how they are feeling. If you were in their place, like, if your empathy is something like keeping yourself or putting yourself in someone's shoes. So how they're feeling and what would you say or do if you would be in their place? How do you think they would want to be treated? Like, how would you help them? Or such questions can be asked after narrating story. And if we make it a habit, nothing to worry, because if children isn't talkative, the child will not answer even, but keep on asking, talking about their feelings, and then take practice also. This is the way. And during the conversation, take a pause and give the child time to respond. In this way, they can express their feelings. Then a conversation, then their response, encourage them to answer these questions. And then whatever they are replying or responding, then you listen it to means carefully what they're saying, and avoid filling the blanks. Means everything should come out from their side only. Then in schools, what we are doing, like we are having special care unit also in our schools. So 4 periods, like out of these 8, how we are managing 4 periods, these special children, they are taking their classes together, and after that they are coming to main classrooms, like as age appropriate. So they are sitting with their own age peer. And I have seen that the other students, they are ready to help them out, and they can express even when we are asking or calling them for games and etc. So how they are helping, that also we have seen. This is also we can say empathy. Then in schools, we are for visit, we are taking our students to old age home. And what a kind of project I had given them, just to talk to them, interview the old people. And then it was their project to write down at least 5 people they had to talk. So when they were, interviewing them, and after that in special assembly, they were expressing their feelings, what they felt after talking to them. That made many students, to realize or think in a different way. Then orphanage also, for example, we are taking the students, and story narrating and all these things, like observation, that also leaves everlasting impact on their mind. So such a story I would like to, actually a short small story I would like to narrate here. Okay, how it affect the child, the mind, brain of child. A story goes like this. A shopkeeper once placed a sign above his door that said, "Puppies for sale." And sign like this, you might have seen, it always is a way to attract young children. And that is no surprise, a boy saw the sign and approached the owner. And then boy asked, "How much you are going to sell the puppies for?" The owner replied, "Anywhere from $30 to $50. And little boy pulled down some coin from his pocket. He said, "I have $2 and can I please look at them?" Because he cannot purchase at that time. So shop owner smiled and showed him 5 cute puppies. One puppy was lagging behind, and immediately the boy singled out and where he pointed that lagging and limping puppy and said, What's wrong with that little dog? Shopkeeper explained that the veterinary doctor had examined and discovered that it didn't have a hip socket. And that's why it would always limp. The little boy became excited and said immediately that that is the puppy I want to buy. The shop owner said, no, you don't want to buy that dog. If you really want him, I'll just give him to you, like free of cost. Then how the boy, reacted? The boy got quite upset, looked straight into owner's eyes, pointing his finger, and then said, I don't want you to give him to me. This dog is worth every bit as all other dogs, and I pay full price. In fact, I'll give you $2 now and 50 cents a month until I have him paid. And then shop owner countered, you really don't want to buy this little dog. He will never be able to run, jump, play with you like other puppies. And you see, the boy reached down, rolled up his pant, and revealed the badly twisted, crippled legs supported by a big metal brace. And he looked up at the shop owner and said, well, I don't run well myself, and little puppy needs someone who understands. So we can imagine in this way, like, putting yourself in someone's shoes, then only you will understand the pain or the expression of the feelings. So this is what the empathy, I find narrating story or the observation, whatever they are observing from us or from nature or from everywhere, then from that also empathy can be taught to them. Otherwise, of course, it's earlier in older days, it was said that it's innate, talent, innate, but it can be developed. So this is all I actually wanted to say.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Gita, ma'am, if I may come to you next, ma'am.
Yes, please.
Any special strategies that you employ in your school to teach students?
First, I'd like to thank all of you for having me over here. I have had a wonderful caring time listening to everyone. And this is actually something that we tell our teachers to listen out. The active listening part has to be on our part rather than the kids. We need to be there to listen to their problems and then notice the pattern of, where what is going wrong and how do we help them out. Because this is something that is missing out in a lot of areas. We do a lot of storytelling, we do a lot of vocabulary building, we've got a lot of dumb charades, gaming things that go on, taking them out on, places. But what we are actually lacking is, getting in touch with the social part of, dealing with children, especially with the COVID situation, very coherent right now. What we not see is that the child gets, bogged down in the house, and he's got very few people that the child can interact with. And so that active listening part, what is going on inside the child's heart, is not actually getting poured out. So to overcome that, we've got very sweet sessions where we've got storytelling and book reading sessions, like Mr. Philip had said earlier on, that the parent or the educator needs to be role modeled into the society in a way that, we leave the social media and the selfies and the hashtags at some doorstep and come home without the, phones. So inhibiting the phone culture a little bit helps the child get validated even at home, because there's so much that a school or a society can give in, wherein the parents are both working, they're not able to give that quality time which was given to the children 10 years ago probably. So now that trend has actually changed and moved the proximal care system that we had very much in place, that has shifted. So the emotional mental well-being of a child is into the suddenly that has come into being, whereas we were all very social. Some some boy falls down in the classroom, or someone spills some water, the other one immediately comes to help out. That is empathy. And these things are interwoven so beautifully into the curriculums when they're playing sports, they're doing teamwork, they are collaborating, they are, building upon a lot of things. So, I mean, the school scenario has so many things, and it's not alone just us who's doing that. There are plenty of other people who are doing just the same things, probably doing it a little different than the other. I wouldn't say that we're all doing it similarly, but yes, identifying, what patterns we need to see, and giving your staff, your teachers, your trainers, because these are the people who are actually getting in touch with the children. So telling them how to, read the signs, how to read between the lines. What is it that the child is struggling with? Like Sunita ma'am recently just said that, there are certain children who don't talk, who are unable to communicate their problems, would not speak out in the classrooms or elsewhere. And we as educators, we only get to know about these problems when it's too late. So where we found the root of all this was that proper training with the staff, giving them, good guidances, getting them through a lot of training sessions regarding empathy and how are they supposed to deal with certain issues, whether it's parent related, whether it is, child, you know, nowadays kids are very, I want this only. I am only going to stay in this box. I'm not comfortable coming out of this box. So those kind of things, how do you get them out of it? Even with the best moral stories that you've got, and helping them go out and socially do a lot of society work, taking them to a lot of places like the old age home, the Red Cross societies, and helping them see what is grief and what is agony, which they also see at home, because the children are also the greatest products who get people who get abused by the society, because there's no hearing them out actually. So what we need to do basically to empathize with them is first be very patient listeners, because the moment we start listening, not only do we understand what's going on in their little heads, and it's probably something really simple, like we were doing, I'll just share this small thing with you. We were doing Save the Water campaign, and how we must save electricity. A small boy in class 1 came to me, "Ma'am, should I have this water or should I just save it?" Something as sweet as that. So they've got very simple minds, they're very simple at heart. What we need to be doing is just looking out for the right instances and see where we can pitch in. As a school, we do a lot more, and I'm blessed to have a wonderful circle of teachers who continue to help day in, day out, giving them personalized time, listening to them. We do have a lot of book reading sessions, and we discuss about the stories, characters, and how would you mold them differently. If you were a character, how would the story change? Those kind of things, where the child actually gets into a character, and hypothetical scenes are created in the mind, and they think about these things. So because of these situations, a lot of children who don't speak at home speak to the teachers. So we have had a lot of success with that, and the children have always become more understanding. They are more pally with each other. They see if a friend is having a bad day, or if one of the friend has scored higher than the other, you should not get jealous. You should be like, okay, that's all right, my friend has scored better, maybe I should work on myself too, or maybe you can teach me better. So rather than focusing more on the problem, we see it as an opportunity to look for a solution. So this way we have helped a lot of children And I'm blessed to have a wonderful team who helps me through and through, and we move in together. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for sharing those. I think it's a wonderful thing that you're doing at your school. Mr. Saraswat, sir, if I may come to you next. So your strategies regarding teaching this very important quality of empathy to young learners.
Ryan, thank you very much for inviting me. Thank you all the panelists and those who are the wonderful audience, those who are connected to this webinar. I must thank you and Notebook. You are doing a wonderful job that we came to know through your videos also. And moreover, the way you have taken this initiative, because we feel that this is something which we educationists have not touched. And this creates a big problem. We talk about the life skills. We talk and we want to teach. What I believe that it is not taught. These skills are acquired. And how they can be acquired, that we have to decide. So for that, what we do and what we are trying to do is actually developing an ecosystem in our school where this skill is acquired. And how it is acquired? Like, when they watch, they observe actually their teachers, they observe other students. I am giving you one example. It's not about the students, it's about us all. Sometimes we are so touched by a particular movie scene that all the audience, those who are watching that movie, they start crying, tears in their eyes. So such kind of feelings we have to, the thoughts are to be there. So what this happens when they watch some teachers doing something special, a child is in need. If he doesn't have a pencil, the teacher gives some pencil. The team building, team games are there. So movies, sometimes we have these movie shows also organized for them. And we are trying, role plays are outstanding activities. One of my colleagues today shared with me that how they, cover sometimes one eye and they make them just move here and there to understand what the person who is with one eye, what he or she faces, one hand, one leg. So, such type of needs are created because what I believe, in fact, my team believe that when we create such kind of situations where need is identified, then acquisition of a particular knowledge, or what I say, acquiring a knowledge becomes very easy. So we are inch by inch we are moving, and we are sure we'll be developing this ecosystem in times to come, where culture of the school is like that. Empathy, not sympathy. Again, I say I was not there when Mr. Barrett, she touched this point also, that how what is the difference between sympathy and empathies. When what we do, a little groundwork is required, like we are visiting a village. All right. So sometimes what happens, even our old children, they sympathize with them. But if groundwork is done and they are made to think in this way, then they empathize with them. So just little tuning, a little improvement, little groundwork, and then when we take them to orphanages or any village or any such place, the sympathy is converted very easily into empathy. Okay, so these things are there. So one or two movies are there. Then such kind of role plays are there where things are shaped this way, and then culture of the schools. One more thing I would like to, that sometimes what happens, I am sharing one example. In one of my schools, people from Assam they were transferred to that location. It's in UP. So they were transferred to this location, and children were not able to speak English, and they were not able to speak even Hindi. So it was so difficult for them. And the worst part was that even children, their classmates used to make fun of them. It happens sometimes, okay, in this school. So what we decided one day, we just, made them sit at one place and called one or two students from this place. All the students who came from Assam in a class and made a few students from North India sit with them. And even the teacher was speaking Assamese. Now look at the face. So this way the need was created, and they immediately got what was the message, how this is to be taken up, because how the problem, and then there was a test. So we can understand when a topic is taught in a different language, how they are, even North Indians, when Assamese teacher, when Assamese student, they were participating in the discussion, they immediately acquired this skill. And it was a lifelong learning, I say. Okay, so what I see, need is to be created, then ecosystem is to be created, where it is not confined to classroom only. It is in the atmosphere. Ambience of the school is created in such a way where they develop such skills, not only life skills only, but there may be other skills also. So our results have been wonderful. We felt the same thing, sometimes we find that when they see some laborers' children, a kind of, again, sympathy. Some of them with round faces, okay, how will they do? But some of the students will go to them, will talk to them, will take care of them. This happens only when this sympathy is replaced by empathy. So we are trying, our teachers are trying, and I am so thankful and grateful to Notebook and people like you. You are also trying. So we are towards creating a better world where these things will also be given importance. Generally, we don't do. We are now, this discussion has been started. CBSE is talking about value education. New NEP also talks about. Just imagine the frustration of a clerk, the ticket clerk sitting at a booking counter. He starts shouting, fighting, everything goes on. The platform, the inquiry person. This wouldn't happen the moment the people who are going to approach him, they understand what the frustration he's undergoing or experiencing. And the person also, while dealing with the public, he also realizes this person has traveled and now he wants to know when the train is to arrive. So these things are, such kind of role plays are to be given to the children. Sometimes skits are there. Sometimes movies have to be arranged for them. And as I feel, teachers are the creators of the need. Let the students identify the need and they will acquire themselves. Because once they identify and they feel that it's a need, it's needed, their grasping power increases. We all were not so familiar with these all gadgets till this pandemic came into our lives. We identified the need, we prepared ourselves. Then today we all are, so many workshops are going on. The COVID, which really has given to us a very tough time, but has made us learn a lot. These are life lessons. The life skills also. When we feel that a child has lost parents, people come forward now. They donate. They are willing to support because they empathize with them. So this way we are doing a lot. We come to know when we discuss on such platforms. Okay. And your executive, when she was talking to me, I felt, yes, it is needed now. And despite the fact that I conducted 3 hours in the afternoon and 2 hours in the morning, I am with you today. Wonderful. We together, when we can make a difference. We are outstanding panelists, all I can see. You have contributed also. This such discussions, such, sharing of ideas will definitely make a difference. And I'm sure we will. Okay. So we also, broaden our horizons, mental horizons. Thank you very much, Mr. Shubhai Rai, and Notebook team. Thank you very much. Thank you, the panelists also.
Also, thank you so much. Uh, this is called Together for Education for a reason. If by the end of it also give you some stats, sir, we have connected with over 95,000 educators in these last 134 episodes, and if we over this entire initiative, if we can arrive at a point where there are enough educators who really care about holistic development of students and have this go-to body of work where there are solutions, then I believe our mission would be fulfilled. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir, especially for doing this after 5 years, 5 hours of non-stop work.
No problem, no problem. It's my pleasure. And we keep on gaining a lot. Actually, when you give us such topics, we have to think. And the need is creative. The entire mechanism, or what is being done, need is being created. We have to think. Today, when I have to talk on this particular topic, I have to think of ways, and maybe I come across some new suggestions and ideas also. The way people are taking leads, and there are people, So movies, stories, as you have all shared your views also. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir. But please do stick down. There are just a couple of more questions that I have. And this is not for any one of you in particular. It's just a general thing that I would like the three of you to discuss and all of us would learn. It's just that we understand that teachers are doing a lot to have their students understand empathy or to develop empathy for fellow human beings. The problem becomes that this is a part of the student's life cycle. There's another part where there are parents frustrated with work pressures, parents who have lost jobs. There are, as sir said, movies are sometimes wonderful influences, but then Bollywood does not do us a lot of favors. And sometimes they're not so great influences. There are characters and role models that students are developing who are not empathetic at all. How do you counterbalance these external influences? All three of you, please, I would ask you this question. Gita ma'am, would you like to go first?
I would love to. This is one topic that I started on, and I would love to talk about this. See, the first thing is that I personally feel that why these things have risen up is primarily because our dependence on the social media has increased to quantum leaps. You can't just judge a person. Everyone, you would have a family gathering, you would be sitting at a wedding or at the demise of some person, but everyone is his own self. We've all got our own mini me's lying in front of us. In place of this hand, we've got phones. We're not connecting anymore. We're not talking to anyone anymore. If a person is depressed, we know that person is depressed, but what we are lacking is that action from thinking to doing something about it. So that action is missing for the parents and the child. We focus a lot on, the teacher should do this, the teacher should do this. We're not focusing how limited their, circle is right now, and how much can they do at the end of the day. You've not bought them, they're not slaves. They are human beings. They also have emotional needs, and there's only so much that they can do in a day's time. And there are children where you have to mold them, unmold them, and then remold them. Like they say, you need to re-educate yourself, forget what you've learned before, and then you redo that. With the children, you have to have very set rules that you have to do this. You have to set a bar where the children understand that my parent is not going to be able to persuade my teacher to come down from that bar. I have to rise up. So those kind of parameters have to be set. And these things happen once you've got a very strong and steady, learning about the, community that you're dealing in general. If you don't have a personal association with the parental or the, the students that you've got in the school, I I actually boast about knowing about every single child in my school, and we treat every single child as an individual identity. So unless and until every school has that kind of a attitude, and they treat every child, their problems individually. Now that boy coming to me with saving water was very innocent, and he knew that what he's saying is out of place, but he still said it. So a person has to be allowed to speak somewhere. When the child goes home after he's done his online classes, there's no one to speak to them. Parents are not living with the grandparents, they're not visiting their buas, and there is a lack of the nucleus family and the whole family. There's no meeting anyone. With the COVID, we were all devoid of everything. So now we've got these peer callings that we call in our school. So the friends are allowed to make WhatsApp calls or Zoom calls to the parents with the permission of the other child's parents, so that they've got a linkage between. They're not losing out, because who lost the most? Yes, the parents lost their jobs, the mothers were frustrated, the parents had done everything, the teachers were getting depressed because they were doing everything together. But who is the future of the world right now? Who are we grooming right now? It's all about the child centered approach. Everything talks about the child. If we don't take this seriously, then I don't know where we are heading. So for me personally, parent education is more of a topic for us before the teacher education. If the parent is with us, the child's hand holding doesn't leave at all. Just keeping your phone down at the dinner table, not answering any calls, and just talking about, bete, aaj aapne kya kiya? Aaj aapko chot lagi? You learned this. Did you attend all your classes? Just this much is so important for that child who is just about 5, 7, or even 17, because the gap continues to grow, and we as educators cannot heal families. We are just here to teach a child about the basics. But if he is hurt at home, we cannot help him at work. So bringing it to a conclusion here, the teachers need to understand to have boundaries when they are dealing with problems. The parents need to understand where they need to step in and how. Every parent has a limitation. If a parent is working 9 to 5, the parent is bound to come home and feel tired. So give them that time, understand, let the child know that the parent cannot expect a child to be ready with the Indian Airlines wala wo jhuka hua haath and everything, that the parent will come, I'm going to bow down, touch his feet, give him water. No, that is not the society that we are into right now. The children are, what have you got for me? Did you get something for me? That is the real world that we're living in right now, and it is time that we face it with real facts and how we need to get across these points. So this is a very open suggestion, that if parents discontinue their time and give just about an hour or half an hour to the child, read them storybooks at night, inculcating these things at home, this really builds up a child's emotional health to a lot better than what the child does. So the education, the co-curricular activities, everything shows a much positive response. And I've seen this personally, working with all the children in the school. I personally know their names, details, and everything. So I take pride in talking about these things.
Wonderful, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. Dr. Singh, if I may come to you next, ma'am. I would actually specifically talk about the influence of mass media. Whatever we are seeing on TV, on movies, I understand the parents' part, and that is something that, as ma'am said, parent education perhaps take care of it. but how do you deal with this movies influence or the TV influence? Ma'am, we can't hear you.
Yeah,
I think it's okay now. Yeah,
I think I'm audible. I had to switch off my video because I'm facing some net problem, I guess. It's due to weather.
possibly.
Yeah, but only few things. If my net supports, I would like to say, like, what we have seen these days, entire scenario of, these days that has been changed. What people in a home, you can say 4 members are there and everyone is having their separate mobile phones and everyone is busy. Like, in a 2-room set, even the 4 members are far away from each other because dependency on internet or excess use of internet. So, excess use of internet, what it created, exposure that creates anonymity and less communication between each other, and empathy deficit that contribute to online inhibition. So they are cut off from self and people, and less face-to-face talking happens these days, very, very less. And anonymity most of the time makes a person feel safe online, like a different person. And one might even take on a new, persona, and there is empathy deficit. It becomes empathy deficit because of non-verbal communication between them. So, how to manage these things? To manage all these things, like, we must strike a balance between emotion and thought and between self and others. Otherwise, what will happen? Empathy becomes a trap and we can feel as if we were being held hostage by the feeling of others. So that more communication that should be there. And probably, earlier there was a golden rule that means treat others the way you want to be treated. Same way for empathy that relies on the platinum rule. And here, treat others the way they want and need, they want and need to be treated. So same atmosphere that should be created at home. So, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you.
Yeah. Use statement such as you distracted other students in the class. Same way at home also, you have a quarrel with your siblings. It should be replaced with I statement. For example, like, we should say, I felt that other students or your brother or your siblings were distracted by your behavior today. In this way, we should speak to them, and I statements allows them to talk about situation and give them chance to express them, and without placing blame. It would be more comfortable way for them to realize and understand empathy. Sir, I guess I'm facing some trouble. You can continue with some other speaker. I'm in between. I'll manage this.
Thank you, ma'am. I think we got the gist of what you were saying. Saraswat, sir, if I may come to you next, sir. Sir, you spoke about building an ecosystem, right? The 2 points that I spoke about, where people around them, not necessarily just parents, but in general, people around them who are non-teachers, and social and media influences, that is working in the exact opposite direction of the ecosystem that you want to create. How do you counterbalance?
Actually, Mr. Rai, it is just like, you see, we have thousands of books, thousands of movies. We have to choose which one you like. So, and this, as I told you about, how to create the grounds is to be prepared first. I have seen children, they, if you offer them toffee or chocolate, they will say no. How this happens? Because subconsciously they have been consciously by the parents, so that even in subconscious they feel that no, chocolate eating is wrong. All right. Similarly, this way they have to develop this, they have to make right choices. Of course, there will be, we cannot stop. We try to stop, but then we are helpless. Today we say, no, it won't be there. No, it will always be there. It's just like that. Some people, when they go, they say, no, I will eat this food, I'll not eat this food. Similar kind of choices have to be given to them, and they are to be given this confidence that they can make right choices. They won't allow this to happen. This depends upon, again, your culture of the school, the neighborhood culture. What is acceptable in one neighborhood may not be acceptable to others. This happens. Similarly, schools can do a lot when they give them these choices and train their mind in such a way that there are valves, in their brains when they see something. So they do not allow these influences to pass on, touch their subconscious minds. So although it is difficult, but this is what it is happening. People say, here, this is a township where we live, and here we go for safe by choice. I mean, it's not the compulsion that you have to wear a seat belt or a helmet. You have to, and this happens. First, conscious efforts, maybe some pressure or push from the authorities. After that, it becomes the moment they move out of the township, the residents of this township, they never forget switching on their seat belts, and they always do it, because similarly children also develop this habit. They will know, no, this is a bad person, this is something bad, we cannot allow this to happen. This will happen, but in times to come will compel them. I'm not saying they will compel them to be more decisive, more choosy in a way, that what's right, what's bad. They have to. Then only their subconscious mind will accept what they want to accept. And this can happen. We can train their minds. Of course, again, I talk about the ecosystem. I talked about creating that needs and then identification of needs. Then only this will happen. But we have to allow them to be good, take some decisions and make good judgments. All right. Of course, it's not, so easy. I can say, I can talk to, but it is happening. But side by side, we find that, yes, it is stopped also. Not all children love adult movies. No, they know which. Now this, this internet also are making them better judges. They have to decide. The moment now children are addicted to phones, and they, not because of their own needs, but because sometimes the schools are asking them, parents are asking them. So many platforms are there which are offering them online everything. So they decide what is to be seen, what is to be touched, what is not to be touched. See, in the similar fashion, they can decide which influence will touch their subconscious mind and which will not. Okay. Conscious efforts are to be made by authorities, by the teachers. Of course, the students will be, and somebody was telling, these things get aggravated. Sometimes when we are using some wrong notions or sometimes tools and techniques. So instead of reducing the impact of such problems, the bad part gets aggravated. Okay, so again, we have to be very sure about what we are doing. If we highlight something, it will definitely be damaging us in a worse manner. So this can be done only, and wherever it is being done, children are able to make judgments. Children, even small kids nowadays, they know, we in schools, through it was actually pushed by CBSE, bad touch campaign, good touch campaign, such kind of things. They allow this also. They create their own walls. They will not allow this to happen. This influence to reach them. This happens. But again, conscious efforts are to be made. Thank you. Thank you for listening. I don't know how much, up to what extent you agree, but yes.
Thank you so much for that. I would love to, keep going on, but due to paucity of time, we'll have to close the discussion here. But there's been a particularly wonderful session for me. A lot of learnings that I can take away, and I'm sure the members of the audience also. Achin is not here today, so the onus of actually doing the vote of thanks comes on to me. So first up, Barrett sir, thank you so much for that introductory session. Barrett sir has been our opening batsman throughout, and the way he kind of launches into every single topic and gives us such a brilliant starting is something that we have always been in awe of. Sir, thank you so much for doing that yet again today.
Thank you so much, Bayu.
You're welcome, sir. Dr. Singh, thank you so much. Sorry about that last minute technical glitch, but I think your points were very well taken. Particularly the story about the kid and the puppy, I'm sure is something that every member in the audience would carry back and remember for a long time to come. Gita ma'am, thank you so much. Parent education, I agree with you completely, is very important. If there's one learning that we've had from 135 sessions of Together for Education, is that in the whole trifecta of students, teachers, and parents, is the parents who need these sessions the most. So we'll perhaps have to put all of this into a DVD or something and start giving this out to parents. Might just help our educators better. Thank you so much, ma'am, for being here today.
Thank you so much. I would just like to take a minute and thank you. I've not had that. I've been saying a lot of things. I personally want to thank everyone, all the speakers, your platform, everything. I wish you all the very best of luck for the future, and you've taken on a brilliant platform to, showcase all these ideas with all the people who want to join in. It's a wonderful thing that you're doing. Godspeed and stay blessed. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Means a lot to us. Mr. Saraswat sir, I personally have become a big fan of how you want to have the students in control. Whether it's, creating a need and giving them the ecosystem and having them choose, or giving them all the influences possible and just making conscious efforts at giving them the power of choice. I think every 10-year-old, the biggest thing that they enjoy is being treated like an adult. Since you are giving them that feeling and then guiding them along the right path, I think that's a fantastic strategy to have, sir. Something that I'm sure a lot of people here would learn from. And last but never the least, I must thank this wonderful audience. Thank you so much for being with us session after session. We take immense inspiration from your presence and your support. Once again, thank you. Please take care and goodbye.
Thank you very much, Mr. Roy, and thank you all, the wonderful, outstanding panelists. We'll keep on sharing such ideas in future, in times to come also. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.